Hello people of the internet, it's Amanda, and for today's video I actually debated so many times if I'm gonna make this video or not, but because of like certain things that I have been seeing online that sort of like frustrates me for some reason as a J-drama fan or as a fan of this entire franchise altogether, then I decided I'm gonna sit down, gonna talk about it. Let's just do this. Now, I just want to say before I start this video that if there are any stans out there of any of the versions who are gonna watch this, just, I don't know, like this is just my take on the entire matter for watching dramas in general for the longest time. And so I appreciate it if like you also have your own opinions on the matter. So let's just put it out there. Let's be chill about this thing. This is just like a fictional TV show. Calm down. But with that said, I have like really strong opinions about the Meteor Garden 2018 version that just came out. It's crazy because I just said that let's be chill about it, then at the same time I'm making a video about it, so I don't even know, but whatever. I never really talk about a lot of things or like put out my opinions on things if I haven't like read the material fully, watched something fully, blah blah blah. But for this one I just couldn't like sit it out, you know. And I'm gonna talk about why later, but let's just like roll things out as to what I think of the other versions, plus sneaking in some Hana Nochi Hare in here, and again the 2018 version for Meteor Garden. So for all intents and purposes I'm gonna refer to Meteor Garden 2001, like the first one, as Meteor Garden, then Hana Yori Dango for the Japanese version, Voice Over Flowers for the Korean version, MG 2018 for the new one, and of course Hana Nochi Hare as Hana Nochi Hare. So there's that. So let's start. Like basically for me, everything started with Meteor Garden. It's a massive phenomenon here in the Philippines. When it aired, it was dubbed in Tagalog or Filipino. That made it, like, we've had a couple of like K-dramas here and there back in the day, but then Meteor Garden is the one that sort of like took it to a whole new level. Mainly because it was in the afternoon, it was accessible to basically everybody. Like after school, you can head down there and wait for like 5 p.m. to like watch it before the news. It was on a premiere slot, and the formula of basically like a rich guy falling in love with a poor girl, and it was something that is very classic when it comes to an Asian drama formula, and probably I'm not particularly sure if it's like a Western trend even back then, but for Asia it's like a classic formula for a love story. So there's that, plus the fact that, you know, this girl is feisty, she fights for her values, plus here's an antagonizing. So the story itself is very like formulaic. In fact, I do think it was the one who started that formulaic trend of that whole like stereotypical characters thing. But back then the storytelling was actually very much like compelling. Not a lot of people would have their own, I don't know, like would have too much opinions on the matter, unlike now where every single thing has to be scrutinized. So a lot of things in Meteor Garden in itself, you know, it was just like a guilty pleasure, or it was just something that was fun to watch. And I remember it was booming here. I have posters of the Taiwanese F4 on my room. My brother has his with the sunchai on it. It was a massive thing. I'm not just sure how big it is around like Asia. I do know that when I talked to my Singaporean boss about it, she was also a fan, so probably it was as big in other places, but here in the Philippines specifically, it's crazy. Parents, my mom has seen it a bajillion times. My dad used to catch the bus just so he could watch it on the way home, the TVs and the buses and everything. It was bizarre. So, and to me, I think fast forward to like a couple of years when I discovered it was actually from a Japanese manga, I did realize that Meteor Garden actually stuck a bit more, what do you call this? A bit more authentically to the original material. Of course, they added their own touches to it, like Mingte became college, unlike in the original material where it's high school, but they're sort of like faithful as to how the characters were like portrayed, more sometimes like how they look and act and everything like that. It was crazy, and they really did a good job at making it more human in a way still, because if it's in the manga, there are some parts that are a bit like exaggerated or you can't really do it in real life. And Meteor Garden really did a great job at transforming and owning the story back then. So it was crazy. It was good, and I still understand the appeal now. Like, it's believable that these four like guys could literally just like beat someone out. Like, they do have the build for it, they do have like the angst for it. So it was quite like great casting, great storytelling, blah blah blah. And that's why if you look back, even if like the Taiwanese version isn't exactly like from the original country where the story originated from, it's still considered like the classic version of Hana Yori Dango as a manga material there. But then, like, fast forward to when I was in second year high school and I started falling in love into this whole that is J-drama. It's crazy because when I watched Hana Yori Dango for the first time, I just found it really epic. Like, it was just so bizarre in a way, because at first I was laughing at it. Like, I remember Matsujun being so thin back then, and even like the rest of the F4, because it's not really a trend much in Japan to have like really bulky, big bodies when it comes to like their popular actors and stuff. So, like, for me, seeing these F4 for the first time, I was like, okay, compared to the Taiwanese version, this is a bit less believable. But even like the way they created the story, it was caricaturish, it was very manga and anime like. But out of all the versions, they're the ones who really took creative license into their plate and just embraced it and made the material apart from the original, but still very likable and very enjoyable, because they did have arcs there that were just ridiculously funny. A lot of the characters were ridiculously like exaggerated, and a lot of the scenes were just somehow, oh my god, this is so theatrical, but then at the same time you just can't stop watching because of how compelling it is, because of how unique the take is, and because, like, if you know J-dramas in general, especially during the early 2000s, then you would know that exaggeration and being theatrical and being funny is part of every single J-drama's formula, and that's what makes it like different from how dramatic and just even bordering on melodramatic like K-dramas are back then, or like, for example, for Taiwanese dramas that borders more on the realistic. J-dramas really own that idea of very like hyper realistic, but then at the same time, like, you still feel the rawness and the core of the characters, but again still have the same elements of, problematic rich guy meets poor girl but with strong convictions, blah blah, he meets his match and so on and so forth. And it's still the same thing. Again, when 2009 came in with Boys Over Flowers from Korea. Now, the thing with Boys Over Flowers, it's sort of like balanced out the realisticness of Meteor Garden and the comedic value of Hana Yori Dango. And again, they still made it into their own story, but still sticking into the whole like flow of the entire thing. Really watch out for K-dramas in general. I'm more of a J-drama person, but because it is a variety of the whole Hana Yori Dango, Meteor Garden franchise thing, I decided to watch it, and it's not exactly that bad. Like I remember even downloading the soundtrack of the Korean version because of how good it is. To me, having this Korean version is just, just okay. I don't have anything against it. It's just that it's not something that I would rewatch over and over again. But again, they did like pin down the nostalgic material, and because of the booming popularity of K-drama during the time, then it was a massive success, obviously, here in the Philippines. But just to me, I've seen like the two versions. They made it into, like, they meshed that into the Korean version, and they added like their twist to it, so it was fine. It was okay. Now, now when they announced that they're gonna reboot Meteor Garden again for this year, obviously I was trying to look out for, okay, what's gonna happen, what's going on. And when I saw that, okay, so they're casting and everything, it didn't really get me excited as much. I think it's again banking on the nostalgia of the 2001 version. And then I saw the trailer. I was just sort of like confused at the entire thing, but I still decided maybe I'm gonna give this a go, And so when it finally aired, I decided to watch like the first episode. And I was even more confused because I do think that what they're getting at here is jumping into the whole millennial or like snowflake culture, where they couldn't make a problematic character anymore. So I honestly am confused about the whole like card playing thing. Yeah, I do feel like maybe they figured that it wouldn't sit well on the audience now if they did like what happened a couple of years ago, where there's like bullying ensued or anything like that. Which I totally understand. It's just like, okay, and they wanted to make it their own as well. But to me, it just felt, especially since I just finished watching Hana Nochi Hare, I do feel like they could have like approached it in a way that the F4 wouldn't seem as lame, at least in my opinion. I don't know, just it didn't have that much of an appeal to me. And then I watched the first episode and I didn't even realize that it ended already because of how bored I am with how slow things are. And then I started watching the second episode and I still didn't like feel any I didn't really feel as compelled to it anymore, so I just stopped watching there. But I decided maybe like if I watch clips and so I would find something that would clinch my appeal and maybe would want me to like watch the entire thing again. But then I saw like a couple of clips and mainly it was just a recycle of the other things that had already happened in the past series. They just added like a bit of like, or made it more cute or anything, but it didn't really clinch my attention as much. So I figured I'm not gonna watch it. And I don't understand like maybe again it's just because it's banking on the nostalgia of the first one. That's why a lot of people were raving about it. But to me, it didn't really feel as much, especially since, and I do think I need to mention this, Hana Nochi Hare again did also bank on nostalgia because of how like Hana Yori Dango is such a classic in Japan, and obviously like making a sequel of it, then people are gonna pay attention. But then it became a story on its own. Like it created characters like the C5. It wasn't as crazy as before, where there's bullying, where there's this, there's that, but the element of ruthlessness is still there, like forcing someone to withdraw just because they couldn't. So the element of still like, where is this ruthlessness or cruelness coming from, that is so distinct of the F4 group as a whole before, and now C5, it still sort of worked without it being too like as abusive as it is from back then, which I do feel like is something that the Meteor Garden 2018 would have done, like MG 2018 would have done, but they decided to take a whole like snowflake route. Let's just go there, you know, let's have people challenge us with cards and anything. So I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me as much. And I do feel like if we're talking about like sequels or remakes or anything, Hana Nochi Hare did a great job at, it didn't overshadow or it didn't try so hard to like replace the original one with its own value, but it created its very own like place in people's hearts, at least for me, or at least for the people who have watched it. Mainly because we see characters here that are growing together, unlike in the first one where the formula is like there's this person changing another person, and that's that, you know, there's this ordinary girl who changes problematic guy. But then for Hana Nochi Hare, it was more of like these two people trying to find themselves and trying to understand more about themselves and meeting each other. They sort of like went in ways of transforming into better people because they met each other, but not necessarily because of each other. So it was a nice journey, at least for me. There's a build up, of course. There's still the nostalgia of the past where falling in love with someone would change you, falling in love with something like that. But for Hana Nochi Hare, I do prefer how they banked on nostalgia of the franchise as compared to making a reboot. There's nothing new there anymore. What's new is just, I think, in my opinion, they just made it a bit lamer. At least the F4. So I don't know, like I'm not sure if I'm gonna give it another go. I'm still kind of like just frustrated at how underrated J-dramas are in general here in the Philippines. And every time they're doing a poll as to like who is the best, blah blah blah, they always sort of like don't understand like what the other, like what the J-drama version is. So it kind of just frustrates me. But yeah, again, so to recap, Meteor Garden 2001 will always hold a special pedestal in my heart, in my fangirl person, because ever since I was a kid, it started my Asian novella obsession, probably even unconsciously. Hana Yori Dango obviously will be at the top of my list, mainly because it's J-drama, and I just love how creative they went with the material. They didn't stick to just original one. They made it their own. They made it funny. It's just iconic. Voiceover flowers. I truly appreciate this adaptation. I may not be a massive fan of like K-dramas in general, but I do like how they did the material in a way that, you know, even the soundtrack is compelling. I specifically love the love you, love you, love you, that one. Did I get the tune right? Almost Paradise. Yeah, I think that one was the main theme, which I actually enjoyed also. And it's sort of like, even in aesthetics, K-drama really leveled it up a bit, mainly because I think it's 2009 already, so technology has taken quite some twists and turns as compared to like when it was 2001 and back in 2005 when Hana Yori Dango was a thing. But it was a great, it's not my favorite, but then at the same time, like, I still get that clinch of nostalgia whenever I watch it. And as for MG 2018, again, I'm so sorry, I'm just not one of those people who appreciate it. And if I were gonna bank on like reboots or remakes or sequels, probably no doubt about it, Hana Nochi Hare. I would have preferred if Taiwan made the same thing or something. So yeah, my thoughts already out there. I mean, I wanted to dig deep into like more details and everything like that, but it would probably end up like an hour's worth of video. So let's not go there. It's just that, again, I didn't feel like there's anything new with this whole like MG 2018 thing. They tried to make it their own, but to me it just ended up lame and very snowflakey, like they don't want to offend anyone. But I don't know, it just didn't do much for me. So maybe, I don't know, I'm still not sure. But yeah, so far, yeah, I still highly recommend Hana Nochi Hare over this. So there. So yeah, that's it for today's video. If you agree with me or anything like that, if you have any opinions about the matter, please tell me down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Or if you have any arguments or I don't know, comments that would make me want to reconsider MG 2018, do tell me down in the comments below. That's it for today's video. I'll be seeing you again soon in a new one. Bye!